Harrison Pottson and the Secrets of the Timeless Cavern. Once upon a time, in a land where magic flowed through every tree and stone, there was a young boy named Harrison Pottson. Harrison wasn't just any boy. He had a lightning-shaped scar on his forehead that glowed whenever he was near powerful magic. He lived with his rather ordinary aunt and uncle in the mundane town of Grimvale, where magic was a myth, and anyone who believed in it was considered odd. But Harrison knew better. On his 11th birthday, a mysterious letter arrived. It wasn't like any ordinary letter. The envelope shimmered in the sunlight, and the seal was stamped with a crest of a soaring phoenix. The letter was an invitation to Wandmere Academy of Magic, a hidden school where young witches and wizards learned to harness their powers. Excitement bubbled inside Harrison as he boarded the enchanted train that would take him to Wandmere. Along the way, he met two other students who would become his closest friends. Emma Greenleaf, a clever girl with a knack for potion making, and Roland Stormrider, a brave boy with a heart as strong as the winds he could control. At Wandmere, Harrison discovered that the magical world was far more dangerous than he imagined. There were whispers of a dark sorcerer named Mordrin the Wicked, who had been defeated years ago but whose followers still roamed in the shadows, plotting his return. Harrison's scar tingled whenever he heard Mordrin's name, as if it held a connection to the dark sorcerer's power. One night, while exploring the school's forbidden corridors, Harrison stumbled upon an ancient, dusty room filled with wands of all shapes and sizes. The wands were silent at first, but as Harrison approached, they began to whisper. The whispers spoke of a powerful artifact hidden within the school, the Everspark wand, a wand so powerful it could defeat any dark magic. The whispers guided Harrison and his friends on a thrilling quest through secret passageways, enchanted forests, and treacherous trials. Along the way, they learned that the Everspark wand could only be wielded by someone with a pure heart and the courage to stand against the darkness. In the final showdown, Mordrin's followers cornered Harrison and his friends in the heart of Wandmere's ancient library. The dark magic swirled around them, but Harrison, holding the Everspark wand, stood firm. He remembered the lessons he had learned about bravery, friendship, and the power of good. With a burst of brilliant light, Harrison unleashed the power of the Everspark wand, vanquishing the dark magic and saving Wandmere from Mordrin's return. The whispers of the wands fell silent, but Harrison knew their message would echo in his heart forever. As the school year ended, Harrison, Emma, and Roland stood together, knowing that their adventures were just beginning. They had faced darkness and emerged stronger, bound by the magic of friendship and the courage to protect the world they loved. Harrison Pottson and the Enchanted Mirror. The summer after their first year at Wandmere was long and uneventful for Harrison. Though he missed the magical world dearly, he knew he would soon be returning to the place where he truly belonged. When he finally received his letter inviting him back for his second year, Harrison could barely contain his excitement. This time, the letter came with a peculiar note. Beware of reflections, for not all that is seen is true. Curious and a little unnerved, Harrison couldn't help but wonder what it meant. But before he could dwell on it, he was reunited with Emma and Roland on the enchanted train to Wandmere. As the train chugged along the magical tracks, the trio exchanged stories of their summer and eagerly discussed what the new year might bring. Upon their return to Wandmere, the atmosphere was different. Whispers filled the corridors, and students spoke in hushed tones about strange occurrences. A sense of unease seemed to hang in the air. The faculty, usually jovial and welcoming, appeared tense. It wasn't long before Harrison, Emma, and Roland found themselves caught up in another mystery. During their first week back, Professor Luminar, the enigmatic teacher of ancient charms, introduced the class to a new object, an ancient mirror known as the Mirror of Viscera. It was said to show not just reflections, but the deepest desires of the heart. However, the professor warned them that the mirror could also reveal one's greatest fears, and that sometimes what the mirror showed was not to be trusted. That night, unable to resist the mirror's allure, Harrison and his friends sneaked into the charms classroom. The Mirror of Viscera stood alone, its surface gleaming in the moonlight. One by one, they gazed into it. Emma saw herself surrounded by shelves of rare potions ingredients, mastering every recipe. Roland saw himself commanding the winds, leading a team of brave wizards in a daring rescue. But when Harrison looked into the mirror, he saw something unexpected. His reflection, but with a dark, shadowy figure standing behind him. The figure's face was obscured, but its presence sent a chill down Harrison's spine. The next day, Harrison couldn't shake the image from his mind. He knew the figure had to be connected to the dark magic that still lingered in the school. Determined to uncover the truth, the trio began researching the Mirror of Viscera in the vast library of Wandmere. They discovered that the mirror was part of an ancient legend. It was said that the mirror had once belonged to a powerful seer who could see both the light and dark paths of a person's future. However, the mirror had been cursed by a jealous rival, twisting its visions into nightmares that could lead those who looked into it astray. As the trio delved deeper, strange things began happening around the school. Students reported seeing shadowy figures out of the corners of their eyes, and objects seemed to move on their own. Harrison's scar began to tingle more frequently, and he had unsettling dreams where the shadowy figure from the mirror tried to speak to him, but he could never hear the words. The turning point came when Harrison discovered an old diary hidden in the restricted section of the library. The diary belonged to the seer who once owned the Mirror of Viscera. In it, she wrote about the curse and how it could be broken. Only by facing one's deepest fear can the truth be revealed. With this knowledge, Harrison realized that the shadowy figure in the mirror was more than just a vision. It was a manifestation of his fears and doubts. But what was it trying to show him, and why? The final confrontation took place in the mirror room. Harrison stood before the mirror, his friends at his side. This time, when he looked into the glass, he saw the shadowy figure more clearly. It was no longer behind him, but standing face to face with him. Harrison understood that to break the curse, he had to confront the figure. Taking a deep breath, Harrison reached out toward the mirror. The glass rippled like water, and he found himself pulled into a shadowy realm, a place between worlds. The shadowy figure, now fully visible, revealed itself to be a younger version of Mordrin, the dark sorcerer who had once terrorized the magical world. But this was not the Mordrin of legend. This was Mordrin before he turned to darkness, when he was just a student at Wandmere, filled with the same hopes and dreams as any other. The young Mordrin spoke to Harrison, revealing the tragic tale of how he had been consumed by fear, manipulated by dark forces, and ultimately turned into the monster that he would become. Harrison realized that the mirror was showing him that even the darkest of hearts could have once been good. The lesson was clear. Fear, if left unchecked, could lead to one's downfall. With this understanding, Harrison reached out to the young Mordrin, offering him a chance at redemption within the shadowy realm. As their hands touched, the shadowy figure dissolved, and Harrison found himself back in the mirror room, the curse broken. The Mirror of Viscera returned to its original form, no longer a source of dark visions but a mirror of truth, reflecting not just the heart's desires, but also the lessons learned through courage and understanding. The strange occurrences around the school ceased, and the sense of unease lifted. Harrison, Emma, and Roland had once again triumphed over the forces of darkness, learning that true bravery was not just in facing external threats, but in confronting and understanding the darkness within. As the year came to a close, Harrison looked forward to the challenges ahead, knowing that with his friends by his side and the lessons he had learned, there was no darkness he couldn't overcome. Harrison Pottson and the Cursed Relic. After the adventure with the Mirror of Viscera, Harrison, Emma, and Roland settled into their third year at Wandmere Academy of Magic, feeling more confident than ever. They had faced dark magic twice now and emerged stronger each time. But their greatest challenge was yet to come. As the school year began, rumors swirled about a new exhibit being brought to the Academy's museum, a collection of ancient magical artifacts recovered from the ruins of a long-forgotten civilization. Among these relics was a mysterious object known as the Heart of Kelder, a stone said to possess immense power, but with a dark history. The Heart of Kelder was rumored to have been created by the ancient sorcerer Kelder the Cunning, who had been obsessed with immortality. It was said that he poured his very essence into the stone, cursing it to bring doom to anyone who dared seek its power. Over the centuries, the heart had been lost, its whereabouts unknown until it was discovered in the ruins and brought to Wandmere. Harrison and his friends were naturally intrigued by the Heart of Kelder, but they were warned by their professors to keep their distance. However, during their first visit to the museum, Harrison couldn't shake the feeling that the heart was calling out to him. The moment he saw the dark, pulsating stone, his scar began to tingle, a sign he had come to associate with powerful, dangerous magic. The headmaster of Wandmere, Professor Arcanes, seemed particularly concerned about the heart's presence at the school. He placed numerous enchantments around the museum to protect the students from its influence. But despite his precautions, strange things began happening almost immediately. Students started falling ill, their energy drained as if something was sapping their life force. The professors were baffled, unable to find the cause. Meanwhile, Harrison started having vivid nightmares where he was wandering through a dark, labyrinthine maze, always searching for something but never finding it. One night, during one of these dreams, Harrison found himself standing before the Heart of Kelder. The stone was no longer a simple relic. It was alive, pulsating with dark energy. And then, in the dream, the stone spoke to him in a voice that was both ancient and malevolent. "Release me, and I shall grant you power beyond your wildest dreams. Deny me, and you will suffer." Harrison woke up in a cold sweat, realizing that the stone was trying to communicate with him. He knew he had to do something before the heart's influence spread further. But what could they do? Destroying the stone was too dangerous. Its power was too great to be contained by ordinary means. He shared his dream with Emma and Roland, and they agreed that they needed to find a way to neutralize the Heart of Kelder before it was too late. They turned to the library, searching through ancient texts and forgotten tomes for any clue about how to break the curse. After days of research, they found a lead in a book about Kelder's life. It described a ritual that Kelder had feared, a ritual that could sever his connection to the heart, rendering it powerless. The ritual, however, was not without risks. It required a powerful sacrifice, not of blood, but of something even more precious: memories. The person performing the ritual would have to give up a memory dear to them, something that defined who they were, to sever the stone's connection to its creator. Determined to stop the heart, Harrison volunteered to perform the ritual. Emma and Roland protested, but Harrison was resolute. He had faced dark magic before and knew that sometimes sacrifices had to be made for the greater good. They prepared the ritual in secret, gathering the ingredients and practicing the incantations. The ritual had to be performed in the dead of night, when the heart's power was at its weakest. The three friends snuck into the museum, careful to avoid the magical wards and protections. When they finally stood before the Heart of Kelder, its dark energy was palpable. Harrison could feel it pulling at him, tempting him with promises of power. But he steeled himself, focusing on the task at hand. Emma and Roland stood by his side, ready to support him. Harrison began the incantation, his voice steady despite the fear gnawing at his heart. As he chanted, the room grew colder, and the shadows seemed to lengthen, reaching out toward him. The Heart of Kelder pulsed violently, as if fighting back against the ritual. Then came the moment of sacrifice. Harrison had to choose a memory, one that he cherished, one that defined who he was. He thought of his parents, whom he had lost at a young age, and the few memories he had of them. Those memories had always given him strength, but he knew that to stop the heart, he had to let one go. Tears welled up in his eyes as he focused on a memory of his mother, holding him when he was just a baby, singing a lullaby. It was one of his most precious memories, a memory that had always brought him comfort. With a heavy heart, he offered it to the Heart of Kelder. As the memory left him, Harrison felt a deep, aching loss, as if a part of him had been taken away. The heart of Kelder pulsed one last time, and then its dark energy began to fade. The stone, once alive with malevolent power, became dull and lifeless, just another relic of a long-forgotten age. The ritual was complete. The curse was broken. Exhausted but relieved, Harrison, Emma, and Roland left the museum. Harrison felt the emptiness where the memory had once been, but he knew that it was worth the sacrifice. He had saved not just himself, but the entire school from the heart's dark influence. The next day, the strange illness that had plagued the students lifted, and the school returned to normal. The professors, unaware of the trio's actions, attributed the change to the ancient wards around the museum. But Harrison, Emma, and Roland knew the truth. They had faced darkness once again and had triumphed, though not without a cost. As the school year went on, Harrison slowly came to terms with the loss of his memory. He knew that his parents' love still lived on in his heart, even if some memories had faded. And he also knew that with his friends by his side, he could face whatever challenges lay ahead. But the shadow of Kelder's curse had left its mark. Harrison couldn't help but wonder what other dark secrets the magical world still held, and if he would be ready to face them when the time came. Harrison Pottson and the Vanishing Fortress. The beginning of Harrison's 4th year at Wanmere Academy was different from any other. The weather was unusually cold for autumn, with frost covering the ground even in early September. The chill in the air wasn't just from the weather. Something strange was happening, and everyone could feel it. One evening, during a particularly fierce storm, Professor Arcanes called a special assembly in the Great Hall. The room was filled with the uneasy murmurs of students, their breath visible in the freezing air. The headmaster's face was grave as he addressed the gathered students. "I must warn you all," Professor Arcanes began, his voice echoing through the hall. "A great danger looms over the magical world. The ancient fortress of Eldoria, long thought lost to time, has reappeared, and with it, a darkness that has not been seen in centuries. The fortress of Eldoria was a legendary stronghold, built by one of the oldest and most powerful wizarding clans. It was said to be impregnable, with walls that no magic could penetrate. But more importantly, it was rumored to hold a treasure of unimaginable power, the Chrono Shard, an artifact that could manipulate time itself. The fortress had vanished over 1,000 years ago, disappearing without a trace after a great battle. Many believed it was lost forever, buried under mountains of ice and snow. But now it had returned, and with it, the shadowy forces that had once sought its power. Professor Arcanes warned that the reappearance of the fortress was a sign of dark times ahead. He explained that an ancient prophecy foretold of the fortress's return, a time when the balance of magic would be at risk, and only those pure of heart could hope to restore it. As the headmaster spoke, Harrison's scar began to tingle. He knew, deep down, that the fortress's return was connected to the dark forces they had faced in previous years. And he also knew that, somehow, he would be involved in whatever came next. After the assembly, Harrison, Emma, and Roland gathered in the library to discuss what they had heard. The prophecy, the fortress, the Chrono Shard, it all seemed like a puzzle they had to solve. But what worried them most was the mention of shadowy forces. Who or what could be behind the fortress's return? The trio decided to investigate. They began by researching the history of the fortress of Eldoria, combing through ancient texts and old scrolls in the restricted section of the library. They learned that the fortress had been the site of a fierce battle between two powerful wizards, Lord Elder, the fortress's creator, and a dark sorcerer known as Zorith the Unseen. Zorith had coveted the Chrono Shard, believing that with it, he could bend time to his will and reshape the world in his image. But Lord Elder, knowing the danger the shard posed, had sealed it within the fortress and cast a powerful spell to hide the stronghold from the world. As Harrison read about Zorith, his scar burned with a sharp pain, as if warning him of the sorcerer's lingering presence. He shared his concerns with Emma and Roland, who agreed that they needed to find a way to stop whatever was happening before it was too late. Their research led them to a forgotten legend that spoke of the Key of Ages, an ancient relic that could control the Chrono Shard and seal away the fortress once more. The key had been lost along with the fortress, but there were whispers that it could be found if one knew where to look. Determined to find the Key of Ages, the trio set out on a dangerous journey. They ventured beyond the safety of Wanmir's walls, traveling to the farthest corners of the magical world. Their quest took them through enchanted forests, over treacherous mountains, and into the depths of hidden caves. In the heart of an ancient forest, they encountered a group of centaurs who spoke in riddles about the Key of Ages. The centaurs warned them that the key was hidden in a place where time itself stood still, a place where the past, present, and future collided. Following the centaurs' cryptic clues, the trio arrived at the Timeless Cavern, a place shrouded in mist and mystery. The cavern was a maze of twisting passages, each one leading to a different moment in time. As they navigated the labyrinth, they saw visions of the past, glimpses of the battle between Lord Elder and Zorith, the creation of the Chrono Shard, and the sealing of the fortress. At the heart of the cavern, they found the Key of Ages, a small, unassuming artifact that glowed with a soft, golden light. But as they reached for it, they were confronted by a shadowy figure, a wraith-like creature that radiated dark energy. It was the spirit of Zorith, still clinging to the world in his quest for the Chrono Shard. A fierce battle ensued, with Harrison, Emma, and Roland fighting desperately to protect the key. Zorith's spirit was powerful, but the trio's bond was stronger. They fought with all their might, using every spell and bit of magic they had learned over the years. In the end, it was Harrison who dealt the final blow, using the power of the Key of Ages to banish Zorith's spirit back to the void. With the key in their possession, the trio returned to Wanmir. But their journey was far from over. The fortress still loomed on the horizon, its dark presence casting a shadow over the magical world. Using the Key of Ages, they traveled to the fortress, knowing that they had to seal it away once more. Inside the fortress, they faced one final challenge. The Chrono Shard was more powerful than they had imagined, its energy warping time and space around them. It took all of their combined strength to contain its power and use the key to seal it away. As they placed the Key of Ages into the heart of the fortress, the walls began to crumble, and the stronghold started to vanish once more. The fortress, along with the Chrono Shard, disappeared into the ether, hidden away from the world for another 1,000 years. Exhausted but victorious, Harrison, Emma, and Roland returned to Wandmere, where they were hailed as heroes. They had stopped a great evil from returning, saved the magical world, and proved once again that their bond was unbreakable. But as they stood in the Great Hall, Harrison couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't the end. The dark forces that had plagued them over the years were growing stronger, and he knew that one day they would have to face them again. Until then, he would cherish the moments of peace, knowing that whatever came next, he would face it with his friends by his side.